Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and welcome to my top 10 builds of 2022. And welcome to my top 10 builds of 2022. So across YouTube during the year, I've watched lots of builds from all sorts of different channels, and these are the 10 that have stuck in my mind as my favourites for various reasons. Now obviously I don't watch all channels and all builds, if only there was enough time. So these are the ones out of the ones that I've watched that I really enjoyed, and I hope that you'll enjoy them too. The 80th anniversary Pearl Harbor build by the Flying Dutchman. I absolutely loved this because of the amount of animation, and anyone that's been watching my channel for a while knows that I love to try and add animation, and in here we had open panels, open cockpits, wings that were open, or you could close them, or a bit of both. It was really colourful, it was detailed without over-weathered. I just loved it. It was such a bright, sunny build with lots to catch the eye, and I just really enjoyed it. So that was my number 10. My number 9 build was the 1/48 scale Hawker Hurricane Naked by John Cummings. I really enjoyed the fact that we'd stripped this literally back to basics. So no paint. What had been done was materials only. And by that I mean the materials that the original aircraft was made out of. So we could see the aluminium, we could see the material, the plywood and so on. It was really, really nice and very unusual. So I love the fact that we've gone beyond the box in terms of what the kit manufacturer had intended, without actually doing a lot in the way of having to do scratch building or paint effects. In many ways it was quite a simple approach, but really, really effective. I loved it. I love the fact that you could make such a difference to a model, something unexpected, and I really enjoyed it. So that was my number 9 build of the year. In number 8 was the Mini Art Coal Truck by Jeff Donahue. I really enjoyed this build. It was one of his earlier builds of the year. And what Jeff does is he tries to strive for perfection and push himself. And in that build, he'd certainly pushed himself. And in that sort of drive for perfection, the perfect paint job and getting everything accurate, he'd even gone as far as put real coal in the back of the truck, you know. But it showed the attention to detail, and that striving perfection really shone. And you can tell that it was a build that he really enjoyed and felt passionate about, and that passion came through in the build. And he was also cutting his teeth with his building style presentation on YouTube. So there was lots of things coming together, and as someone who only 2 years ago was dipping their toe in YouTube channels, I understand where he was and how difficult it was for him to do that. But the build was really, really nice, and subsequently there's been more out of the channel. But the coal truck, that was my number 8 build of 2022. Coming in at number 7 is a figure called the Bounty Hunter by Scale Model Inc. And I enjoyed this particular video because of the painting skill. Painting isn't something I consider myself to be particularly good at. I get by. But this figure had all been painted in oils. What I particularly enjoyed about this figure was the way that different colours had been matched so that they sort of went together. So the trench coat and the denim jeans, completely different colours, but somehow they look like they should be together. It's really, really clever painting. It's not harsh, it's very, very natural. I totally loved it. I mean, awe of figure painters, it's not something I'm ever going to master, but I absolutely love this, and I could look at that figure all day long. Beautiful. That was my number 7 build. In at number 6 was the Tram by Rims Models. The reason this ended up in my top 10 was the paint finish. Now that is something that Robert Rims Models is particularly good at. He does a lot of weathering, and that's the sort of modelling that he likes to do. Now this was the first time he'd built a tram, and he'd really pushed the boat out and caught some beautiful subtle weathering effects on the outside. So when you're looking at it, particularly looking at things like the running gear, the steps in, all of the muck build-up looks really natural and subtle and correct. It doesn't look like it's been put there. It looks like it's collected over time, as it should. There's very delicate, beyond subtle streaking that you just catch in the light, like the real thing. But he'd also done a diorama base and put some moss in between the cobblestones and pushed his boat. He hadn't done that before. It was a technique that he'd perhaps seen or something, but it was a really stunning build, and I really enjoyed it. And I saw that build and it inspired me to think, I need to get a tram and I need to have a go at some of that real fine streaking and weathering, because it lifts an outdoors model like that so much. Lovely build, and I had a lot of fun watching those build diaries. So that takes me to my top 5 builds of 2022. And my number 5 build was the Mini by the A4 Garage. Now, fairly new YouTuber, but clearly not someone new to modelling. And what I really loved about this was the attention to detail. It is such a well-built model, based on the Tamiya Mini, but by the time you've finished, it's primarily scratch built other than some of the body panels. Absolutely outstanding work. In fact, I would suggest that the model is probably better made than the cars were. So it was interesting. For me, the attention to detail was stunning, how things were shown to be made, scratch made, hinges and so on and so forth. I thought it was a totally beautiful build. And that was my number 5 for this year. In 4th place is a 1/32 scale F4 Phantom from Scale Hanger 182. It was a completely perfect build in so many senses. What I really liked about this was a combination of the end presentation of the model. Every single detail of that aircraft model had been considered. But also, I loved the way it was presented as a video. I thought it came across really well. It's something that I want to aspire to, being able to do things that well. I'll probably never be able to build a model that well, but I might be able to get the video that good. But yeah, it was a real thing of beauty, and it was very difficult for it to not be in the top 3, but my top 3 are coming up and you will see why. But it was clearly a stunning build. So then, to my top 3 builds of 2022, and coming in at number 3 is the K2 ambulance build from Nigel's modelling bench. Now, Nigel will tell you that he's not the best modeller in the world, but he's a much better modeller than most of us, is the way I look at it. And what Nigel does better than anyone is explain how to do things. All of his years of experience in one series of videos. Now, as I record this, he's not finished that build, but it still becomes my 3rd favourite build of the year, just from the way he takes that quite beautiful model and turns it into something far beyond what most of us could create, and explains how he gets there so well. He's an inspiration to me, he's an inspiration to many of us, but what he's doing in that build series is very carefully explaining what you should do, what you shouldn't do, if you do it, what will happen. You know, it's thoroughly detailed building, and it's that attention to detail that has got him the reputation that he has. So if you've not seen it, you must go and watch it. His little tutorial on using oils for wood effects, absolutely stunning. There's lots and lots of great information and lots to be learned, no matter how long you've been making models or how proficient you think you are. There is no one that explains how to build a model and the various techniques involved better than Nigel. And he's not dogmatic about it. So he's quite happy to say, I love Mr. Surfacer, I love Mr. Surfacer, actually this is better than Mr. Surfacer. He's honest, and that comes out in his build. It's a good, honest, well thought through build with lots of different techniques clearly explained so that everyone can engage with that build and take something away, and I absolutely love it. So my number 2 build of 2022 is a Tamiya kit, 1/48 scale swordfish by the Model Shed, and oh my gosh, what a build that was. And it really captures everything we've said in all of the other 8 builds that we've talked about. It's got attention to detail, it's got animation, it's got realism, it's got realistic weather and a great finish. And it was done in white as well, which is a real challenge for many modelers. It absolutely looked perfect. I couldn't find a single fault with it. The rigging's perfect, the tyres are weighted, everything is perfect about the build. The weathering, very easy to overdo weathering, but it's perfect. It's there, it's obvious, and it's natural as well. I just thought it was the perfect build. And it could easily have been my favourite build of the year if it hadn't been for this next build. So what was my favourite build of 2022? Well, it's a ship build, and it's not actually really come from a channel that is a modelling channel. It's actually come from a daily blog that just happens to make a model ship, and I suspect many of you have guessed what the channel is. So the channel is The Model Ship, the YouTuber is Ron Calvary, and the model that we're talking about is HMS Rodney. So my favourite build of the year. Why? Technically, it's not a perfect build, but what it does is that build encapsulated 3 really big things for me that I think are really important. Firstly, lots and lots of fun. And a lot of the other builds, technically very proficient, helpful to other people, great finish, pushed personal boundaries, but quite often the fun of doing it doesn't come across. But it absolutely did throughout the build of the HMS Rodney. The second point about this build is that you saw every single step of it in razor sharp close-up action. The filming of it is really, really lovely. And he puts a lot of effort into setting that up and what have you. And it's almost more of a focus than the build, actually. And I always enjoy that. And it adds to the enjoyment of me watching that build going together. And he has some quite unique ways about going about some things. And that's also enjoyable to see. And we've probably all, if we're honest, taken away some ideas from there. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is he pushed himself. He did. He put a wash on the decks to bring out all the planking, which he's never done before, and it made such a big difference to the presentation of that 1/200 scale ship compared to the others that he'd done. And then he did glazing on the bridge that he'd never done before. So, you know, he pushed himself and he enjoyed it. And you could tell he was getting sad as the build was coming to the end, and he sort of didn't want it to stop. So that came out in the videos, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. And there is one video that I will not miss, and it's always that one. So it's my go-to video in the morning as soon as I'm settled in. That's the first one that goes on, and then I'll do my best to catch up with everybody else as I can. But there you have it. That is my top 10 builds of the year. Some of them really excellent, some of them just enjoyable, but all in all, it was a fabulous year 2022 for models across the YouTube channel. There were some new channels popping up, there were some new ideas coming across, and despite everything that was going on in the world, there was a nice sense of community amongst the modelers that were watching our channels and sharing the tips. And you know, I have people that come to my channel and say, have you seen such and such? And I go, no, I will go and check it out. And I love that. There is a real sense of community. So I will put links in to all of the videos in my top 10 list of the year. So if you've not caught up with them, missed them, or didn't even know that the channels existed, you can go and find them out and go and have a look at those builds. I hope you enjoy those videos as much as I have. And until then, it's only thing left for me to say is enjoy the season, enjoy the holidays, get some time with your family. The modelling bench will still be there when everyone goes back to work and what have you. So have a nice couple of weeks, and I will see you very, very soon with some of these done. Take care. Bye-bye for now.